All right, everyone. Well, welcome to the last session of our first day of our public-facing symposium. We really appreciate your joining us, and particularly for the really exciting session that we'll be having now with some of our innovators in our showcase at the end of the first day. With the grouping of people that we have, we hope that we'll have some opportunities for questions of our presenters as well. And you take advantage of the chat function as well. For those who don't know me, I'm Anthony Bloom, the Executive Director of the mEducation Alliance. And we're really excited to be able to have two of our organizations talk about their innovations. I also want to give great thanks to both organizations being sponsors of this year's symposium. I'll briefly introduce the presenters, starting with Sooinn Lee, who's the co-founder and CEO of Enuma Inc. And then our colleagues who are calling from Kigali, Rwanda, Kathy and Theo. I was practicing, so I am going to try to do it. Catherine Uwimana, who's the Innovation Hub Manager, and Theophile Harushyamagara, who's the Communication Specialist with Save the Children. And I know that I was spot on in terms of the pronunciation of all your names, so I appreciate ahead of time being able to work on that, but you could correct me as soon as we turn it over to you. So we're going to start with brief presentations. And again, I'm going to give a little bit of background before each presenter. So I'll start with Sooinn Lee. Sooinn, who is calling in from South Korea right now, and really appreciated Sooinn in terms of the award of the participant who's going the greatest lengths to be able to present time-wise, because it's 2 a.m. Is that right, Sooinn? In South Korea just now. And Enuma is an education technology company that is developing early education applications that can help all learners, including those with special needs, to be independent learners. Sooinn led her team to develop products called Tudo Math and Tudo English, which are popular education apps that have been downloaded over 9 million times. In terms of their acknowledgement of their work, in 2019, Enuma's Kit School actually won the Global Learning X Prize competition by helping children in remote villages to read, write, and do math independently with tablet software. She was also named an Ashoka Fellow and a Schwab Foundation Social Entrepreneur of the Year in 2020. So Sooinn, I know that you have some slides that you'll be sharing with us around Enuma's work, and then look forward to having a few minutes to be able to ask some questions afterwards. So again, invite those that are impressed with Soonn's presentation to please use the chat to drop questions. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Sooinn. Thanks so much for joining us, Sooinn. And again, thrilled that we have this deepening collaboration we'll be talking about in a little bit later with Enuma. But over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Sooinn Lee, CEO and co-founder at Enuma. Can you see my slide well? Yes.
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 Today I will just introduce our new project called Enuma School. Enuma is building learning software for basic literacy and math, and we are one of the co-winner of Global Learning X Prize competition. We have been built such a software from 2012. So we have multiple products that is sharing one base platform over about 6 products. So we have commercially successful Todo Math and Todo English program in targeting East Asia. And we call it Impact Cities. We have Kit School that is designed for Tanzania, for Swahili and English. And we build Korean literacy for immigrant families in Korea. And right now we are also ready to launch Korean literacy program for commercial market. As you see, we have math, English as a foreign language and local language. And now it is a time to combine everything to make a more meaningful software for all. So in the beginning of pandemic 2020, we saw some of the we saw high needs of our Todo program in East Asia from the end of 2019. And at the same time, in early 2021, our pilot sites of Kitki School has been closed because of the social distancing issue. So we believe that we may need different tools to deliver learning to children in developing countries or wherever school has been closed, that should run on mobile and tablet devices, and that should be downloadable from App Store. And considering the situation of limited internet connectivity, it should work without internet connectivity. It should work out internet connectivity. It would be really nice if children's software can share their learning progress at home to school's learning management system. So we just wonder, can we make that ultimate app that can be really helpful under the situation? And that's how we start Enuma School project. We started it with Indonesia as a comprehensive early learning product to support young children's independent learning at home and at school. So this application includes Indonesian literacy, math, and English as a foreign language in one program. It is aligned to Indonesian national curriculum, and the content is fully localized, reflecting Indonesian culture and values. So I don't know, some of you may saw Kiki School before. So our game-based approach allows children to play about 20 to 30 minutes per one subject per a day. They will watch a video and they will play game-based learning activity, 3 to 4 game-based learning activity. Typically read one book a day. So with that, we can make about 400 to 500 days of courses cover from early childhood to second grade. And as I told that, about 60 Indonesian staffs, including story writers, illustrators, voiceover artists, curriculum developers, all work together to build a fully localized and totally fit to Indonesian culture for Indonesian literacy and math and English as a foreign language subjects. It couldn't be happen if there is, it can be happen with 1 million generous grant from 3 partners in Southeast Asia. So the head foundation, and it is a Singapore-based foundation focusing on children's education and health. And GMP and PSMI is Indonesian plantation that run large schools inside of their business. So with their help, we set up a local curriculum team and develop local contents for last 18 months. In early days, we built it for 9 months and build localized Enuma school, field test and iterating it with local schools and homes of children. And then we are finally ready to launch after 18 months. We could field test it in Indonesia from January to April. All children follow the social distancing manners. And we can confirm some of the early outcomes that is consistent with our data from Kitki School. Children's learning gain is different from the site's characteristic based on children's base language and their I'm sorry about that. Yeah, and the characteristic of their socioeconomic status. However, with that, we also get a really precious opportunity to iterate the direction of iteration of the application. So now we believe that it's time to deliver to children, and we can't do it with the help of local partnerships. So Muhammadiyah, one of the largest Muslim foundation in Indonesia, launching EduTab Move project that distribute Enuma school tablets to their schools. And Head Foundation just launched their grant program to help local NGOs to use Sekolah Enuma. And we are also collaborating and making a partnership with other local foundations to deliver Sekolah Enuma to the schools and the centers, learning centers around Indonesia. So Sekolah Enuma's local literacy part, Sekolah Enuma Bahasa Indonesia, will be released for free through App Store next month. So we hope that all children in Indonesia can learn with Enuma School. That is our strategy for sustainability. We will build local language curriculum with outside help, partners, and generous donations from foundations. And we make basic literacy program for free access at home. We are working with partners to sell to schools with learning management system. And ultimately, we will sell a math and English program to wealthy parents. So hopefully this application can work as a universal early education program for school preparation and as a elementary supplement tools. We actually have a plan of expansion with several key partnerships. So it starts from Indonesia. And in early 2022, we will start pilot tests in Malaysia. We are discussing with a key partner in Philippines to release Enuma School to Philippine language. And Spanish version of Enuma School is in the pipeline, and we are discussing with few countries to pilot test. In early days, we actually see the word as a language based. So we see actually languages as a one group, but after that, we realize that each country, even though it is using the same language, each country has a different word and accent. So we are targeting to country level to distribute Enuma School. So yep, I'm excited to say about the partnership with mEducation Alliance to expand the Enuma School into more languages and countries. We are ready to expand more languages and culture, and I believe that mEducation Alliance will be really helpful to find the key partners and give us more strategic direction about where to go. So I think that it's time for you to join, Tony.
Okay, can you see me?
Yes.
Sooinn? Okay.
I can see.
Oh, good. Perfect. Well, Sooinn, thanks so much about giving the historic sort of mapping of Enuma and Kitit School, and including where your most recent ambitions are in terms of countries and local languages. From our part, the mEducation Alliance is thrilled that we have this new strategic partnership with Enuma, specifically to help expand Enuma School to a variety of other countries and regions, including potentially for French and Arab-speaking populations. That's a really exciting demonstration about the amplification possibilities of the mEducation Alliance, aligned with really amazing software and what we might do together to increase the penetration, ultimately to help more kids learn to speak their local languages. So I want to thank Enuma and your collaborators for the series of conversations that we've had to supercharge our relationship together, and invite any of those that are interested in exploring the opportunities to be able to adapt Enuma School for your country context to please either let us or Sooinn know as well. Sooinn, I just had a few questions for you, if that's okay, before we turn to our SAVE colleagues. I know it's probably now 2:15 a.m., but are you good for a few minutes of questions?
Sure.
Okay, so one of them is Sooinn. You had mentioned it. What's really exciting about your being one of the recipients of Enuma School KitKit for Global Learning X Prize. Now, I know the Global Learning X Prize applications were released as open source. How does Enuma School differ or build upon the applications that you developed as part of the Global Learning X Prize?
That's a very good question. So KitKit School has been developed from 2007 2015 to 2018. And we released the code of KitKat School as an open source. So at that time, the hope of Global Learning X Prize is other people actually pick up the code and build their own software in their own language. We actually waited for 2 years to see something happens with the code of Global Learning X Prize competitors. But, and we see some of meaningful action in India. But however, in general, we believe that the software are improving through time. Children actually need more contents. We learned a lot from the data of Global Learning X Prize. And more importantly, we want to deliver the best possible software anytime, whenever it goes to the children who are in developing countries. The original idea of KitKat School is designed for children in remote area who can't access to school before the era of pandemic. And in 2020, we all know that all school been closed. We can't see who is out of school and who is in school at this moment. So we built everything with new architecture to make it accessible through App Store and work in home mobile environment. So there are tons of improvement, but we will still looking forward to see other organizations using the base code of KitKat School and making their own version and just share the outcome of all those movements and activities and the researches together around the world.
Thanks, Sooinn. And Sooinn, that community that you're talking about is very much in the spirit of even the Literacy League activity that we set up a few months ago with other organizations such as yourself to be able to share information among the network, and ideally to distinguish between, of course, what are the open source as opposed to commercial or investment streams. I did want to ask you about the relationship of being a for-profit company, just in terms of how you see that in regards to basically your impact, leveraging for impact. I know you mentioned it for some of your products, it's probably going to be the private schools that may sort of be beneficiaries, but that spectrum is really exciting because I think it's bringing the acumen of a for-profit approach, but ultimately, as you said, it's trying to support learners primarily in low resource developing country context. Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about, that balancing between commercialization and impact?
So we are selling math and English products to East Asia, and this business is quite successful, especially after the pandemic. So when we see the demographics, literacy is very sensitive part. Literacy is the most needed subject for young learners, but at the same time, when we are going to wealthy countries, there are not many parents who are willing to pay for local literacy. For wealthy parents, they already access to quality preschools and kindergartens and schools. So and the parents are educated. They don't worry about local literacy that much. But if it is for children who are from low socioeconomic status or poor families, or who has disadvantage from learning, parents actually can't afford to purchase extra literacy program. So that's why we decide to release local literacy for free and make it accessible for anybody who has a mobile device, and hopefully build a business with math and English program on top of that. But at the same time, without accessing to public education system, it is still too hard to ensure those children who actually need those programs can have a real quality chance to play with that. So in Indonesia, we are working with school network like Muhammadiyah or Enuma, and potentially hopefully local government and Ministry of Education to get help to distribute Enuma school a complete version, including local literacy and math and English as a second language to schools to close the gap that is created by pandemic.
Thanks, Sooinn. Great sort of model that others maybe want to comment on it. In fact, I know it looks like Jack Mustow has a question. Jack, would you like to come on? And then
Yes,
I was thinking maybe we'll ask a question soon. I had one more for you, and then we'll turn it over to our SAVE colleagues. It's the luxury of being at the end of the day and having focused attention soon with you and our colleagues, Kathy and Theo. So Jack, why don't you come on screen? And
yeah.
Go ahead.
So the day after your team co-won the grand prize, you gave a very nice talk. And I've been quoting something ever since then that you said. So I want to say kamsamida, because the thing that you said, and I found it immensely moving, is that from your observations, the children used the tutor, in your case, Kit, in groups, not alone like the canonical iconic picture in the wilderness. And they called it tablet school, shuli tableti, because they wanted so much to be in school. That moved me. So my question is, KitKat and the X Prize was designed for kids to use with no adult assistance. But now you've moved into a school environment, which means somehow something that a bunch of children could be using independently on their own needs to coexist with whatever the social and institutional structure is in the school with a teacher who might be used to whole group instruction. What have you learned from how to make your thing that's designed for kids to use without any adult help to not only survive but prosper in an organized school environment?
So from our experience in Indonesia, most of schools in Indonesia are still being closed. And once it opens, it is still following the social distancing protocols. So only 1/3 of children can attend the classrooms. So I think that during KitKat school, Enuma school actually can feel some of the learning time effectively, while children are in outside of the building, or they can use actually extra spaces to learn. So I think it will be a good supplement, not a main learning method of serious classrooms. But we actually see that children experience about 2 years of learning loss in maximum at this moment. And children's levels are so various. So for early classrooms, so early grade classrooms, we assume that teachers will have a hard time to just provide one lecture for all those different level of children. It is being said that there are 4 different grade level in first grade classrooms before the pandemic, but we will not know how many different levels will sit in third grade classroom right now. So I believe that if once used inside of the school system, it will be really great supplement. Children can play while they are outside of the classroom or waiting for other class to finish, or as an after school program, or the supplement for especially struggling learners. But at the same time, other interesting pattern is English as a foreign language. In early days, we thought, so we see that the need for quality English as a foreign language education is really high in schools, wherever schools, whether it is local, rural area or where it is in remote area. And the teachers are really pleased to see having such a tool inside of their classroom. So we don't want to compete with local literacy that much with the teachers. They already have their instruction and they know how to teach children. So with some of the support and boost, I believe that teacher can manage their classroom very well. But for the new subject like English as a foreign language or some future subject like coding, I believe that teachers will find their own way to work with outside tool like Enuma School.
Terrific.
감사합니다.
Hey, Jack, before you go, do you
Yeah.
just want to introduce yourself to
Oh,
folks?
sure. So I'm the leader of the RoboTutor team. I was one of the 5 Global Learning XPRIZE finalists, which is how I know Sooinn and the other finalists. All of them were very nice people, and all of which, much to the surprise of at least one of the judges, managed to beat the pants off the delayed treatment control group. So since they're all very nice people, that's something to be excited about. In your what the interface, if any, should be of KitKit or Enuma or RoboTutor to the teachers, an interesting question. And the answer I heard is they use it outside the classroom, which is certainly makes our life much simpler in some ways. But that's anyway. I don't want to blather on and on.
Thank you.
By the way, we're still working in Tanzania, and we're still looking for funding. But I have lots of dedicated, bright volunteers slowly advancing RoboTutor.
Thank you, Jack. And Jack, you're with Carnegie Mellon University. Just to put that out there as well, Professor. Well, Soonnen, I think what we're going to do is we're going to pass on. We're going to go next to our colleagues from SAVE. I want to thank you for the luxury of time that you've given us to hear about your ambitions, and additionally for Enuma School. And again, reiterate how excited we are to be working with you to be able to expand the reach of that important product to read learners in other countries as well. So if we have a few minutes for time at the end, we may take 1 or 2 other questions. I want to thank you at this point and turn it over to Theo and Kathy. Thanks, Sooinn. All right, so as I mentioned, again, the luxury of time is we're really excited to have 2 of our colleagues from Save the Children calling in from their offices or homes rather in Kigali, Rwanda. Theo, who's a communication specialist, joined Save the Children in January 2018 and has been working on the Mureke Dusome project. Among other activities, he led the social behavior change communication campaign approach for the project, and then draws upon his experience, which is terrific in terms of his background, Theo, as a journalist in Rwanda from 2009 to 2017. He's joined by his colleague Catherine, who works as an innovation, materials development, and private sector engagement professional for Save the Children Rwanda, who has supported the development, provision, and use of quality children's books to improve reading practices and skills among early learners. Her focus recently shifted to special initiatives that use innovation, investment, and digital solutions to amplify Save the Children's impact on children, their families, and refugees. I also want to say that the mEducation Alliance also has a terrific relationship as strategic partners with Save the Children that will be doing a deep dive collaboration globally. And among other activities, do have a pilot activities that we're doing with Save Rwanda using interactive voice response for disseminating descriptions and in effect role-playing about math games in Rwanda, working with Save the Children and Viamo. And so while this isn't the point of the discussion here, I do want to say how excited we are to have Kathy and Theo join us to tell us about some of the initiatives that you're supporting. So I'm going to turn it over to you. And then you could just tell me how terrific I was pronouncing your last name spot on, or just correct me at this point. But Theo or Kathy, please begin.
Yes, thank you very much, Tony. So yeah, my name is very difficult to pronounce. Even Rwandans just find it very difficult. Yeah, Harushyamagara. That's how it's pronounced. Yeah, thank you. Kathy?
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you all. Thank you very much, Tony. You pronounced my names pretty well. I'm Catherine Uwimana, but everyone calls me Kathy.
Great. So to turn it over to you guys, just to tell us about some of the initiatives that you've been supporting.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tony. So I'm going to talk about the Mureke Dusome social behavior change approach that we used between 2016 and 2021. So American Sooinn is a USAID funded activity that was aiming at promoting the culture of reading, especially for children out of school from P1 to P3. So why we're trying to do that? It's because the researches that were done by Save the Children showed that parents were not supporting their children, especially their learning. So we were seeing figures like that only 29% of parents were thinking that they were responsible for supporting their children reading at home and in the community. So we're also seeing that parents at the 84% were saying that they didn't have time to support their children to read at home. And we all know that reading is a foundation for all future learning. So the SBCC approach, or the social behavior change approach, was very much looking at ways of making sure that more children are being supported by their parents, especially at home, but also the community in general is supporting the children to read and at home, especially out of school. So the approach was looking at promoting behaviors or practices that were going to help children or more children to read, especially at home and then out of school. So we're promoting especially practices that were going to ask parents to give their children at least 15 minutes to read at home, especially that means out of school. So we're asking parents to support their children, whether girls or boys, children with disabilities or without disabilities, to make sure that all of these children have access to reading materials and they are being supported by parents, local authorities, and the community in general. So we worked to make sure that we have the messages that were responding to issues, challenges that we have discovered in the researchers, the studies that Save the Children conducted to probe how parents were supporting their children to read at home. So I've said that more parents were reluctant to support their children reading at home. Why? Because they thought that was not their responsibility, that their children's education was solely the responsibility of the teachers and schools. So those messages that we were developing were packaging them, putting them in a format that can be accessed by parents, even those without technology being used. But with the pandemic, we realized that we needed to upgrade the approaches that we were using. So we used especially the IVR, or interactive voice responses, to make sure that more children or more parents have the messages that we're trying to send. So previously, or prior to the pandemic, especially because these IVRs were used as a response to COVID-19 to make sure that we are accessing more parents, those parents who were at home, given the preventive measures that were taken by the government. We had used also the radio. Why? Because we have the statistics, the researchers, the data that showed that radio was a mass communications tool that close to 90% of Rwandans were saying that their source of information is radio. So we're trying to promote some practices that we thought radio was going to be the main channel through which we are going to send the messages. And so, yeah, the radio was low-tech tools that we were using. And then the IVRs that I was mentioning, but also the social media, and to make sure that even these parents who are using social media, who have access to this high technology, can have the messages that we were sending. So we were producing various formats, PSS, public service announcement for the radio, short videos for social media. Those short videos were circulated through social media accounts like Twitter, WhatsApp, to make sure that more parents have access to the messages promoting the best practices that we were trying to advance. And then IVRs, why? Because we thought there's some of the parents who didn't have access to social media, who didn't have access to radio, but who had access to mobile phones. Why? Because the data from the government of Rwanda showed that close to 57% of parents said that the phones, the telephone, were their sources of information. When they wanted to get information, that's where they were going to get the information. So during COVID, actually, we were sending these practices, explaining parents how they are going to support their children, sharing some games that they can organize or play with our kids to make sure that they are reading together, they are just the numeracy is being improved. So yeah, those are the approaches that we're using. And then when we look at how we were able to impact how the children were being supported, after all these efforts that were promoted or conducted by Save the Children through the USAID Market Summit, we actually realized that there was an increase of parents who were saying that they are supporting their children to read at home. So it increased from 59 to 78%. That was an increase of 19%. And then children who said that they spent a certain amount of minutes reading at home increased. The minutes increased actually. So we were targeting 15 minutes a day, but with our assessment, we realized that children were spending 33 minutes reading a day, and they were reporting that they were being supported by their parents. So what we have seen is that the approaches that we used, though with some challenges, because some of parents didn't have access to radio, others didn't have phones, we realized that when you combine the technology like the phone technology with the IVRS technology, and then you are using radio, it's just something that is going to be complementary, and to make sure that more parents have the messages that we are trying to send, and then more parents are supporting their children to read at home. So we have been able to see the changes, and even if it's our approaches showed that we could have improved, especially on how we're going to measure the approaches that we were using. I've talked about radio, IVRs, I've talked about social media. So we have seen that an improved social behavior change campaign could have made sure that each of these approaches is going to be monitored. We didn't do that, and we learned from that experience. And I believe in our future projects at Save the Children, we will be able to improve, especially that the lesson learned from our experience have been shared widely across the movement, because this SPCC approach in literacy was the first of its kind at Save the Children. And I believe that it helped us grasp what is required. And I think in the future, and even outside Save the Children, many people will be learning from our experience. So that's what I had to share about our SPCC approach. Let me hand over to my colleague, Kati. Kati, over to you.
Thank you, Theo. I just saw a message from Tony. I will just continue with my presentation, then you can have the comments after. So mine is a project we intend to do. We haven't started yet, and we are very excited about it because it will be the first math-based project we are going to do for the Rwanda country office, and using the IVR technology. We are going to pilot this project in collaboration with mEducation Alliance and Vayamo. And we are going to pilot this Math Power initiative in one of the districts of Rwanda called Burera, located in the northern part of the country. So why are we doing this? I guess everyone knows here that there is an urge to teach math for young learners worldwide, because half of them are not gaining basic literacy skills. But I will focus on Rwanda for this presentation. So, for example, in Rwanda, when you talk about math, math inspires fear. Theo knows. Usually math is considered like this super knowledge that is alien, and only the strongest, most brilliant people were able to fight it and conquer it and proceed to become successful people in life. So that is how math is. And the way math has been taught in Rwanda for years, it was not really linked to critical thinking or even to everyday life. And that adds up on the fear. But math is everywhere. We as Save the Children can, because math is everywhere. It is in everything we do, and it supports decisions we make. But as a country, as Rwandans, we forgot how to do math. Because even before we had modern teaching, Rwandans used math a lot. We used to measure things. We did the commerce. And even now, when you go to a market in a very remote rural area, you will find people, they have their own measures. Most of the time, they will not measure like in liters or kilograms. That is modern math, that is school math. But in the communities, people have other ways that the consensus agree on. And they say, okay, this is a unit, and it's, for example, a unit of mirongo. It is, mirongo is like this plastic ball you can find in rural areas, and they use it to measure, for example, beans. And you know, a mirongo will cost this amount of money. But there is this disconnection between the math people use in everyday lives and the math we learn at school. So in Rwanda, the last two LARS is the learning achievement in Rwanda schools. It's a national assessment. They showed that 32% of primary 2 students achieved grade level competency in numeracy. That means only a third of learners are gaining basic numeracy skills. And the numbers get worse as the levels get higher. So there are many differences. The study shows that there are broad differences between urban and rural schools, showing that children in rural schools are not learning basic numeracy skills. Between public and private schools, also public being lagging behind private schools, and that the student's age was a significant factor in numeracy learning outcomes. So for people who are not familiar with the Rwandan context, here usually grade primary 2 is for 80 years old, but sometimes we'll find 12 years old to 15 years old. We have been redoubling, or they had other life difficulties that made it not easy for them to advance in school levels. So these children who are older than others are not learning basic numeracy skills. Of course, we're interested also to understand with our pilot why the age is an important matter. So our approach with the pilot we're going to conduct in collaboration with the mEducation Alliance and Bayamo, we'll use practices to close the math gap in young learners in Rwanda using low and high technology approaches, adapting the views on math that we Rwandans have, or people in the local communities, as well as parents, and also using the IVR technology, because we want to see what if we make people own math. We have parents and the communities and the librarians own math and are able and feel confident supporting young learners to learn math, whether at school, in the communities, or at home. And if this math, they are learning, okay, they are the formal education, but also they are learning through games. They are playing with math, it is interactive, and it is fun. We believe we will see then positive learning outcomes in basic numeracy skills. So of course, the expected outcome is to discuss the role of community and parents to improve math outcomes in young learners, and on the digital optimization of local math knowledge and practices, but also using other tools like storytelling to support formal numeracy teaching and learning. So that was my presentation. Thank you very much for following.
Yeah, that's terrific, Kathy and Theo. I know that this was just a sampling of the various activities that SAVE is experimenting with worldwide. And we're really excited again that we have this particular pilot that we could be working on with you guys in Rwanda, but then have been really impressed with the range of activities, including some that were presented earlier today and that will be shared in other parts of the symposia. I was going to start with some questions, but I think I'll be polite to some guests. I saw Jack and Andy had asked about specifically the IVR. Theo or Kathy, do you want to explain just for a moment that particular technology, what it looks like? And Theo, either in the context of what you've done, or Kathy, what we're hoping to do together. I'll turn it over to you guys.
Yes, thank you very much, Tony. So what we did with these IVRs, it was, I've talked about the messages that we were trying to send out. So those messages were transformed into audios. And then those audios were being sent to parents. So the parents had option to listen to any of the audios that we were sending, and those audios contain the practices that we're trying to send out. So yeah, that's how the IVRs were working. And I believe that what we have seen, the advantage the IVRs have when you compare them to radio is that you are sure that the messages that you're sending out are going to reach the parents, and then you can even track, trace the changes in the behavior of the parents prior to sending them the messages and after sending them the messages. So that's how we're using the IVRs.
And of course, Theo, the types of phones that people could access it could be all the way from low-end feature and up. That's the advantage of the IVRs. We're basically pressing a number to prompt an audio response.
Yes, it doesn't matter if you have like just the smartphone or this low capacity phones.
Yeah. And we're used to that here, for example, press 1 for information or press 2. That's basically, and Viamo's the collaborating partner that you worked with, Theo, and then Kathy, the same one that we're collaborating with. Kathy, did you have anything else that you wanted to add in regards to the IVR pilot that we're doing together, or just move on to the next question?
Okay, the concept is the same as Theo's, what he described. So for us, for example, we are going to talk about a shape. For example, ask a child, what is this shape? And there are different answers. And if they, for example, if it is a candle, and they say, this is a cycle, it is like, you know, try again. And they say, for example, this is a rectangle. You say, try again. And if they say a cylinder, you say, yes, you got it. So it will be the same. There will be like games, but also audio to support their learning and interact with the content that is teaching them math.
Yeah, and I like, Kathy, your point, and Theo, it's a broad spectrum approach, right? I know SAVE is supporting the literacy boost and numeracy boost campaigns in a number of countries. And a really important part of it is in community engagement. And so this is another demonstration of outside the traditional school system, for example, reaching directly to parents or households, for example, to IVR. I'm going to invite anybody who's interested to, either raise your hand or put a question in the chat that we can ask Theo and Kathy as well. Kathy and Theo, I was curious, while we're waiting for, maybe we have time for 1 or 2 more questions before we conclude. What is a tangible demonstration of feedback that you've gotten from like parents or the community to help inform your programming, either in literacy or numeracy? Is there an example of, is the tool itself, Theo, that you mentioned that you could actually use the tool? I'm just curious if you could give us an example of that feedback loop that helps inform future programming, either for your literacy or numeracy activities. Do you have an example you could share?
Yeah,
me, I can share.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Theo. So, for example, let me talk about the literacy experience we had with the books. So, for example, we used to have. We don't only buy books from publishers. So we ask publishers to test books with actual children and their parents to collect their feedback. But also once the books are developed, we bring them to the community and we ask them for feedback. So for example, there are some titles we stopped buying. It was in the early days of the Children's Book Initiative, one of our programs. And the parents were like, no. This child, because they are wearing, we don't find that decent. For the publishers and some of the children's staff, the clothes are decent, but for parents and communities, the clothes are not decent. Also, sometimes it is a matter of a phrase, it's a matter of an appellation. There's so many things that can go wrong in the content. and the content it may be approved by even the government. It is approved by a lot of people who are knowledgeable, but doesn't work in the community. So it is really important to be in touch with the community, to know what they want. And even now, the approach we have is that we have many stories that are developed from the communities themselves, from the parents and from the children. And now some publishers even developed programs that support child authors to make their own content in collaboration with parents. The reason why we support that is because now that communities and parents feel involved in the development of the content, they are more willing to use it, and they're more willing to ask other parents and schools and teachers to use it and promote it, sometimes even becoming content distributors themselves.
That's very exciting. Well, Kathy, thanks for that feedback. Theo, I think we'll take your response maybe off question because I'm cognizant we're about to conclude and we must finish on time when the little number appears 2 here. And I know for Sooinn, it's 3 a.m. in the morning. so I want to thank maybe Sooinn, if you want to come back on. And Kathy and Theo, thank you so much for your contributions. Again, really fitting into an exciting day of presentations and gallery walks, and really appreciate on behalf of the mEducation Alliance, the deep collaboration that we've had and will be continuing with your organizations in the future. If you want to drop your emails in the chat, folks should have questions for you. We'll be happy to share that as well. And want to thank those that have joined us until the very end of today's symposium. Supercharge your batteries. We have another 2 days of exciting presentations and look forward to greeting you in other spaces over the next 2 days. So thank you, everyone. We'll keep the chat open for a moment. You could grab people's emails, and wishing you a good evening soon. And I guess it's good morning, whatever. And look forward to seeing you all in the next few days. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Kim, you can go ahead and shut it down.